You're listening to the Uplevel Your Online Business Show, where wealth is empowering, purpose is crucial, and high vibes are non-negotiable. And now, here's your host, certified business coach and practical woo strategist, Sara J Loureiro.
All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Uplevel Your Online Business Show. I'm really excited to have Victoria here with us today. So Victoria Gallagher is the Law of Attraction hypnotist. She specializes in career and business success, helping entrepreneurs, business professionals, and personal growth seekers for the past 22 years to overcome fear, doubt, worry, and negativity, and develop a success-oriented mindset of confidence, self-belief, abundance, and positivity so you can attract what you want in your personal and professional lives. Love that bio. Welcome, Victoria.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's great having or being, you know what? I just had you on my show. It's like, am I having you or are you having me?
Yeah, we had such a great conversation on Victoria's show. So it's like, I need to bring you into mine as well.
Yes, it was a great conversation. So thank you so much for having me on your show.
Yeah, no problem. And so do you want to introduce yourself in terms of, 22 years, that's an incredible, very impressive amount of time. Do you want to kind of date us back to the beginning of why you got started in the law of attraction and in hypnotherapy?
Absolutely. So, it's so hard to believe it was that long ago. We're talking over 2 decades and, and some days, it still doesn't even really feel like, even though like I've never had a job since then, there are days like you still don't know if you've like made it or not, and I don't know if you ever really get to that point where you feel like you've made it. Cause once you get to a certain point, there's always like there's another level that you want to go to. Right. And so taking you back though, to when it all started, I was a stockbroker at the time, working with people managing their finances, asking for large sums of money, managing their assets and all of that. And and it was a really prestigious job that I worked really hard to get, and I earned it, and I got to a pretty high level with it, earning a 6-figure income. And I was married. I had a nice house. I had a nice car. I had all the things that you could want, and I was at this point where I just felt like I had no drive, no passion for what I was doing anymore. And like literally to the point where I couldn't even get out of bed. And I was just fell into like a anxiety, depression. And I didn't know what was wrong with me, or that I didn't ever think at that time that I was going to ever leave that profession. Like I thought that was the thing I was going to do to retire. I really was committed to it. And fast forward to, I started, seeking seeking out therapy. I went to, she recommended that I take these personal development trainings. And so I took these, these long 4-day weekend find yourself courses. And in the process of doing that, I started to feel passionate again. I started to feel inspired again. And, and I just kept, I kept going to different trainings and learning more and more. And, they had these coaching programs where you could be coached, and then you could turn around and coach other people through that process. And I just really fell in love with the whole idea of helping people to overcome their perceived limitations. And I just didn't know exactly what that was going to look like. And until I kind of did, and I realized that it was, helping people to overcome their limitations through using, at home recordings. Because a lot of the people, I would tell all my friends like, oh, come to this great class. I can't really tell exactly what it's going to happen there because, it's like one of those things like, it has to unfold on its own when you go through these courses. And if you know exactly, the whole story, it's like telling somebody the whole movie or telling somebody the whole book and not letting them just have that experience for themselves. And so, since people are like a little skeptical about that, I said, well, what are the things that people that we're actually doing in this class that are helping people? And it was the closed eye techniques, and it was the visualizations and having these experiences. So I said, you know what, I'm going to package this up and create my own line of these visualizations that these closed eye techniques. And so it was like, well, how do I get qualified? How do I know that I'm saying the right thing in these tapes that they were at the time? And then I just stumbled upon hypnotherapy certification training, and the class was like, it was meant for me. It was just like the class was starting in 2 weeks. It was right down the street from where I lived in Las Vegas at the time. And I was like, oh my God, this is perfect. This is exactly what I want to do. And like, I could even become a hypnotherapist, like not just for the purpose of making these tapes, but I could see people, I could open an office, I can, so my mind just kind of started exploring all these things, and I got really excited about it. And as soon as I got certified, within a couple of months, I found myself getting my business license, opening up an office, and, seeing 1 or 2 clients and putting ads in the yellow pages, putting ads in these weekly papers and things like that. And I just, kind of started my little side hustle. They didn't call it side hustle at the time, but, and when I got, so going through this whole business license process in Las Vegas to become a licensed in hypnotherapy at the time, you had to get a psychic arts license, which was really, and I don't know what they would call it there now, because that was over 22 years ago. But, it was they did so much background checking. They did more background checking for that than they did when I was handling millions of dollars working for one of the largest financial institutions in the country. And so, lo and behold, throughout all these background checks, my boss, where I was a stockbroker making, all this money, got this documentation from the county where I applied from the business license. And he called me into his office one day and he said, what are you doing? Are you starting a business? And I said, yeah. And he said, well, that's a conflict of interest. And I mean, keep in mind, I was already like pretty well, like getting established with signing a lease and signing all these contracts for advertising that I couldn't take back. And I wouldn't take back. And so he said, you got 30 days to make a decision on what you're going to do with the rest of your life, basically. And I mean, he didn't say it in those words, but that was the deal. And so I said, okay, well, I'll let you know. And of course I already knew what I was going to do. And so I quit my job and I walked out of there with literally no idea how long it was going to take me because I really got this business license and everything with the intention of taking a year, maybe 2 to build things up. I didn't think I was ever going to have to quit. I kind of thought that this would be something that I could just do on the side. And, and maybe one day I might quit, but it was never my intention really to quit my job or leave. But, sometimes the universe tells you that it's time, and that clearly was time. And so, I went through some abundance issues and deserving issues and some, you got to work really hard issues and all kinds of stuff. For a good year and a half before I was able to really break free and make it on my own and really not be, month to month, wondering, how I was going to, how I was going to survive.
Wow. And I think that's such an incredible story because I hear about this all the time. It's almost like I wanted to leave, but I was afraid of leaving. And then I got fired, or I got let go, or my position became redundant, and it's all of these things where it's just like, okay, well, it's almost like the universe or God telling you told me you wanted to push, right? Like you told me you wanted strength. So here I am giving you strength and giving you that push.
Yeah, it's so true. I mean, I don't know. I thank that boss. I don't even know, like I've never thanked him personally, but if I could, I would. I don't think he's even associated with that company anymore or even around. I don't know, but the bottom line is I really thank him because it's kind of like that, little girl who wants to learn how to swim, but who's afraid to jump into the deep end of the water to learn how. And he just kind of like said, boop. And, I did have a choice, but it was a no choice really, because it was like, there was no way that I was going to, that was a huge stack of paperwork that I had to fill out to get my business license. And there was just a lot, there was so much. And it was just like, I knew like, I can't do this anymore. I can't even get out of bed to make calls. And I truly think, at that was the thing, is like when you're no longer in alignment with what you're doing, not that it was a bad thing or anything. It was just, I think it's a wonderful profession, but it's like when you lose your passion for something and it's just no longer who you are and you're just destined for something different. I don't even think it's sustainable. And I think I had that figured out that I'm just not even going to be able to do what it takes to get to the point where I can retire and make this into a lifelong career. I just couldn't do it.
Right. No, for sure. And I think it's so incredible. I think that you having 22 years of expertise is really incredible. And it's very, very impressive. And I can only imagine how much the environment and industry has changed, even over the past, let's say 5 or 10 years, right? Were there ever moments, I feel like I already know the answer to this question, but I want to ask it anyways, because I feel like everyone kind of goes through this, but were there moments where you're just like, I don't know if I'm going to survive in this anymore, right? Like, I don't know if I can do this anymore. And what really helped you to get out of those?
It was during that initial year and a half that I wasn't sure. So it was, I kept feeling like the world is like working against me, like I kept feeling like, God, like I took this leap of faith. Now, like, I deserve to be successful. Right. And I felt, and, the thing is that when I took that leap of faith, I went into like a fight or flight response. Like I operated completely out of a state of fear and a state of anxiety and a state of like, I got to make it or I'm going to break it. So instead of, what's such an oxymoron, I'm not sure if I have the right word, but instead of continuing the personal development training the path that I was on and the path that I was now teaching people and now making these recordings about writing these scripts, working with people, helping them to overcome their own limiting beliefs, instead of me continuing to do that, I had no time in my day for that. Like that was the story that I made up. Mm-hmm. I am now like, my own boss, and I've got to figure out how to make money. And I've got to like figure out all these Google ads. And it wasn't Google at the time, but just the same kind of thing. I've got to figure out how to make this website work. And I've got to figure out, record. I really felt like I got to do everything myself. So it was so premature, my quitting my job. It was like like I said, I really needed that year to 2 years to kind of take my time with it. And I kind of got thrown into, the deep end of the water to sink or swim. And so all I'm just kind of doing is flopping around and trying to figure out how to make my business work without getting my mindset into the right place where it needed to be. And that should have been my first priority. And so it was during that time that like, I didn't know if I was ever going to turn a profit. I literally one day, it's just like, I threw my hands up in the air and I just, I'm just like, God, and it's not like when I say God, it's not in a religious way. It was just like more in a spiritual way. Just like, what am I doing wrong? Like, why isn't this working for me? Like I am doing what I love and the money hasn't followed yet. And, why me? And I was feeling like such a victim and I was feeling like everything's against me. And I just started crying and I just felt so, like humble and so, just like destroyed. Like, who am I? Like, what happened to the confident woman that I used to be, the one that actually made all this happen? And I just kind of listened and I started journaling and I started writing and I realized, oh, you got to train your mind. You've got to actually do this work. You have to continue to do this work. And it was like literally at that point, like I just started listening to my own hypnosis recordings and like literally listening to financial abundance and prosperity and just after I would do that, I would just get ideas for like how to promote my website because I was in this calm, relaxed state where I could like hear and I could tune in and get the answers and get the intuition to actually come and say, oh, you could sell your stuff on eBay. Oh, you could have a sale. Like I never even thought about like having a sale, like giving giving people like a sense of urgency to, oh, you could talk to and I started coming up with hundreds of ideas, like literally, I'm like, instead of doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result, sign of insanity, which is how I was going about it. And, so it's just like the ideas would just flow and the ideas would work. And within a couple of months after hearing that message, I became profitable. And so look, I mean, that was back in 2000 that I turned my first profit. There have been times, I mean, it hasn't been a consistent, constant upward trajectory.
Yeah.
There's been ups and downs and there's been those times where, I've found myself like on Career Builders, which wasn't even in existence back, it's like, what would it be like to,
right. I go with a feeling
to go back to work. And it's like, I'm on there for 5 minutes. It's like, wait, that would mean I'd have a boss. That means I have to go in at 8:00 or something like that, and it's like, as soon as like I even have that
out of it, right?
It's like, no, that's never going to work. That's never going to happen. It's like, we've got to focus.
And what I love about everything that you're saying, and I find it so interesting, is that this is what I call the doing versus the being in our businesses, right? And so you were the do, go, right? Because we always think like, okay, we have to work. But work, there's so many different ways to work, right? And so your work that you really needed to do, because you still need to do the doing, right? But the work that you were avoiding was the internal work, and ironically, it's the work that you're teaching other people to do, right?
I know. Yes.
And I think this is so common. I work with a ton of life coaches, and they always say this to me too. They're just like, okay, well, if I do my business, I don't want to get to a place where I'm no longer practicing what I preach. And I'm just like, well, but that's why you have to do it in a very strategic way where you're really bringing both worlds in at the same time. Right. And I remember even a time in my business a few months ago where it was the same thing, everything that you're talking about in terms of all of those times in your business. I always thought to myself that once I hit a certain income level, first it was 10K months. So it's like, once I hit 10K months, like I'm no longer going to have these worries. And then it was just like, and then every single next income level, it was always like, well, once I hit this income level, then nothing. And it took me to get to 25K months where I was just like, wow, this is never going away. Right. Like, this is just something that you have inside of you. And it doesn't matter what income level that you're at. It really is a mindset. It's a mindset shift of, it's kind of what you were saying when you went on Career Builders. It's like, okay, I'm doing so well, but at the same time, other people would probably think I'm set for life, right? But here I am on Career Builders because somehow at some point in time, I spiraled downwards and I am no longer believing in myself, right?
Exactly. And so it is a constant, I think we all hit level, like once you hit one level, like you said, you hit the 10K, then you hit the 25K, what's next? And you hit your levels that you believe are possible for you. I mean, it's hard to believe that, when you're doing $1,000 or whatever, that you can actually do 25,000. So you have these levels that are bite-sized levels that you can get to. And so there's always going to be like the next level. And I believe that, it's not just the financial level. It's also, to me, it's a level of freedom. There's the, how much free time, that's kind of the mode that I've been in. Like, how can I optimize my day? And I literally recently, I've just kind of decided that I'm at the point now where I'm going to start taking things off my plate and make room for more things that I actually do enjoy doing more, And so, so it's, like I feel like I could get away with probably working 3 days a week and, continue the upward momentum. And so to me, that's another level of success. So it's not even just about the money. It's about the freedom and how can I make the largest amount of impact with the least amount of effort, I know.
I love it. I love it. So helpful. And I think that, one thing that I really admire about you is your level of expertise, the humility that comes with that. Cause you're just kind of like, oh, I'm just, like regular person here doing this for 22 years. You have an app, right? Of your own, which is amazing. But here you are just being like, oh, like I'm just Victoria, right? I'm assuming that you started off in a place where I don't even know if apps existed, right? 22 years ago. I don't think they did. Because I think
the iPhone didn't even exist.
Right. Yes. How could you even have apps? But what was the trajectory for yourself in terms of your belief system that's helped you kind of like create everything that you've created? And what were the tools and the techniques that you feel like you really used to get you there, to get you to the point where you're just like, oh, I do have an app, like I can do all of these things.
It was at a very early stage of creating my hypnosis programs that I always wanted to have like some sort of a membership site, like I wanted to, and that was like before people were having subscription or membership sites, but I think it was even just my training in as a stockbroker, even because I set up assets for my clients at that time that would turnover every year. And so I kind of got used to having that, what's the word I'm looking for? The cyclical income, things that expire and continue to, so anyway, so moving forward, I had a vision for my whole business before it even, like in doing those seminars, like I would see the whole picture and, the whole picture being like, I just wanted this personal development empire. And, I wanted, to create the most amount of, hypnosis recordings that you possibly on the planet. And interestingly enough, like I've had this almost like this sense of urgency to create as much content as I possibly can so that I can like leave this legacy. Because I realized, like I was blessed with this gift. I have this great voice. That was one of the motivations to create hypnosis programs, was like literally the very first time I got the idea. It was after creating one for myself and listening and not to brag, but just to, like admit, that like, this sounds great. I mean, more people need to, more people should listen to this. And I got all the validation from people that would listen to this. So it occurred to me, because people's voices change over time. And it occurred to me, I want to make as many of these highly impactful, beautiful, gorgeous recordings in my voice as I possibly can before I can't. And luckily, 22 years later, I still have a great voice. But what's interesting is some of my recordings, I don't talk about this. This is just something that just kind of popped up. But some of my, some of my recordings, if you go back, some of them were many years ago. I have evolved a lot over time. I mean, my voice has changed. I mean, you don't sound the same at 52 as you do when you're 32. And, so it was just like, I wanted to maximize my full potential ultimately. And, because like things are gonna change. I mean, I probably won't sound as lovely to listen to when I'm 80. Maybe I will. Maybe, there's a way to continue, to keep your voice sounding young even when you're 80, but I don't know if I'm going to sound like this when I'm 80. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like make as many of these while I still can. I wonder if I went off track from what your original question was.
I think we're hitting some really great points. I think the initial question was, how has even just like the work that you do, how has that really helped you? Because I would assume, but correct me if I'm wrong, right? But I would assume that when you're kind of just like starting out with this, you're just like, I don't even know if this is a career. I don't even know if I like incorporating this into this. These are all very scary things. And I think that my perspective in this is also helping our listeners to see, like, where is Victoria similar to me, right? Like where, like she's not just some superhuman who's just like, I've been doing law of attraction work for 22 years and I have this like really amazing business. I think for me, the crux of the question was, how has Victoria felt sometimes like she can't do this? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And how has law of attraction work really, really helped you with that?
That is a beautiful question, because, it's a really interesting thing. And I have a hard time being vulnerable and telling people that I have bad days. I mean, and that's because I'm the law of attraction hypnotist. I've got the whole,
Right.
universe on my side. And, I've got it all figured out. And, and just every day is a happy, beautiful, sunny day. And, but the thing is that I have bad days too. And, I have, days where I suffer in self-doubt, wondering if I'm going to make it, because there's, as there's never the point where you've made it. You're never going to make it, because there's always that next step. And we never really take that time, or I don't, to like, just, acknowledge like, whoa, I've published 4 books. I've done this app, it's like, oh, but I still haven't made it,
Right.
I mean, there are those days where I still feel like, do I even, how am I able to help people? Because like today, I don't even feel like I can help myself. And I mean, do you feel that way sometimes? I mean,
oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, a really going back to the income stuff, because I feel like that's one of the ways that a lot of people can relate to this. But even going back to the income stuff, I think that it really, really hit me, because I was always just waiting in my business for like the specific moment where it's just like, okay, I'm set for life, or like, okay, this is set. Okay, now this can run on its own, or whatever. Right. And it's kind of what you're saying in terms of like, I published 1 book. Okay, now I need to publish another, right? Like I did the app. Now I need to do something else, and do. And it really hit me at one point when I was thinking, I'm like, okay, well, let's say somewhere in the future, I'm hitting 7 figures or something along those lines, right? Just a hypothetical. And I'm thinking to myself, how would I feel in that moment with the current mindset that I have? And I immediately felt this huge constraint, this huge stress, because I knew that if I was at that level of business, that I'd have to be paying team, that I'd have to, like, everything would still have to go on. I wouldn't be, even if I took a break, like there's a lot of, money that would be spent on, let's say, for example, growing the business that would still, it's almost like a never ending process of, I need to keep co-creating with what I'm doing. And so I think that from there, I just realized that like every single day you wake up, and even if, you have 4 books, you still have to innovate. You still have to continue on with the business. There's still like these hard days. And I think that when you're just starting out, and a lot of the people who are listening to this are usually kind of just starting out in their beginning stages, they might look at someone like me, and especially someone like you, right, who's very accomplished, and think like, well, Victoria already has everything figured out, right? Mm-hmm. Like she already has she's been doing this for 22 years. She has 4 books, like all of these things. And, but as we're both talking, it's no, we still have those days. You still have those days where you wake up and you're just like, what am I doing today? What am I going to do next year?
Yeah. And, I think how I get through those, for one, I have to realize, why I got into this business and in the first place. You have to always kind of take yourself back to like, literally when I walked out of my 6-figure a year job as a stockbroker and said, I want to do this. I said to myself, I don't care if I make like poverty level income. I just want to do what I just want, the freedom, and I want to help people with, and I want to help people to feel better about themselves. I want to help people to take themselves to that next level. That's what's important to me. And, and so it's about kind of recalling why I do this, what it is that I love about this, and kind of remembering too, like, I love to create content. Like that's, right. I mean, literally how I fell in love with that was going to somebody's recording studio and making that very first recording and falling in love with that very first recording. I loved the whole process of the content creation and, and then, just when somebody chooses my program, and today that's even more special than ever because, back in the day when I first started out, there weren't as many choices. Now there's so many choices. And the fact that anybody even pays for it these days is special because, you can get so much content these days, absolutely free on YouTube. So it's, just the fact that people choose to listen to my content that I sat down to make, that's what inspires me. Like that just is what keeps me going. The fact that people are choosing this, and when people come back and they, talk about the changes that they've made and how much it's helping them. And, that is what just keeps me going. I keep going. Like, I can't be anybody else. Like those days where I looked up, could I do, it's like, I can't even be anybody else. Like, this is, this sort of found me, and this sort of chose me. Like, this was to me, like the right, this has always been the right place to be. What keeps me going, is just, those productive days where I really feel like I love producing a lot. I love those days where I just like, I've got it all mapped out, and okay, I'm going to do this all, and I'm going to create, 7 videos today. And I love those days where, it's like, and I look back at the end of the day and I can actually see like all of this amazing life-changing content that I put together. And, and I wrote it, I recorded it, I got, all of that in a matter of a couple of days. I live for being super productive. And, it's so, being in the moment too, and just being grateful for all the things that I have. I think that is just so, so important. The other fun thing lately that's just been getting me through the day, like on, there's, again, there's, even these days, there's still those sucky days. The thing with me lately is I've been having a hard time finding a good developer, for my app. So my app has not had any new updates for like the 3 months, and it's really been bumming me out a little bit. And I've been really just working very hard just to find the right people, so I'm not back in this situation again where I'm trying to find people. And, so that's, when that gets me down, I do this. I say, Alexa, play dance music. And I don't even have a choice, whatever comes on, and my body just starts moving. And it's like a way to raise my vibration, like just moving, just getting around and moving, or just going for a hike in nature, and just, being grateful for this beautiful neighborhood that I'm so blessed to live in, and this beautiful house, and, and just really just remembering all of the things that are going right. Because it's so easy sometimes to let yourself downward spiral. And, those negative thoughts can be super contagious for people. And one thing leads to another thing. And, before you know it, it's like life sucks, everything's bad, but if you start to get yourself to just be disciplined enough to think of one good thing that you're grateful for, and then one more thing after that, and then one more thing after that, before you know it, you're going to start to rampage and feel really, really good. And when you get yourself into that good state, that's when all the ideas really start buzzing on what you can, what you can do, and how you can, fix things, and how you can make it better. You're not going to get any of that when you're in that low, downward spiraling negative thought state.
Oh, thank you so much for saying all of that. I think that was so, so helpful. I know that there's so much more that we can talk about, but we're running out of time. So tell us about your app, tell us about your books, tell us where we can all find you, because there's so much more to Victoria. I think this was a very nice, like, personal podcast episode, but of course, like, you're just like a fountain of knowledge. So how can we all consume your knowledge and all of your great?
Yeah, absolutely. So, as you can kind of see behind me, I've got those 4 books back there. Practical Law of Attraction, Attract Good Luck, How to Manifest Your Soulmate, and Ultimate Weight Loss Power, which is a script book for hypnotherapists. And those are all on Amazon. My app, HypnoCloud. So, like, as I told you, been doing this for over 22 years, and I'm addicted to creating content. So, anytime I create anything new, it just goes into that app, as far as any hypnosis MP3s. And there's right now over 500. They're not all in there because, like I said, I don't have the app developer. As soon as I find this person, there's going to be an avalanche of brand new content that's going to.
So if anyone knows an app developer, feel free to message Victoria.
Oh yeah, it's driving me crazy. So there's so much in there though. And I really do have a tendency, more so now than when I first started, to create content around, the spiritual entrepreneur that is, in kind of like a life coaching type of business. And so a lot of my mindset, breakthroughs are, breaking limiting beliefs around those money patterns, abundance issues, things like that. That's the content that I love to create and talk about in my app. So it's HypnoCloud, and you can download that in either the app stores, Google Play, iTunes, and then you can just visit my website, victoriamgallagher.com, and there's even more courses and coaching and public speaking and all of those things that I do. That's all available on my website.
Awesome. Amazing. Well, thank you so much for being here today, Victoria and Sarah, sharing so much of your personal story. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you, Sarah, so much for having me. It was great to chat with you today.
Thanks for listening to the Uplevel Your Online Business Show. If you enjoy our show and would like the show notes and free goodies about how to grow your online coaching business, head over to sarajloureiro.com for more information. We hope you'll tune in next time.